Sorry for the wait. I hope my poor hospitality doesn't bother you. To be quite fair, you came to my boat most unexpected. It's fine, but send a letter ahead next time. I've experiments to run and, in fact, have delicate, time-sensitive rituals I must attend to before too long. However, I do have some time, so please enjoy your tea, sit back down, and pay attention. This story is of the most remarkable slime I'd ever had the misfortune of happening on. I'd love to tell you this story through her words, but as misfortune would have it, she lacks any speech capabilities. So I'll have to tell you my point of view. It was many years ago, during the spring of 1343 SC. I'd found myself in the small town of Varthel. I was searching for something at the time. What it was is not presently important, but I had heard whispers of it connected to this town. It was a lovely place in the spring, nestled in the warm fields of the Golden Row, with a gentle river separating it from the wood. The golden fields surrounding the town smelled of honey, and held the constant, unending buzzing of honey bees. I could see their apiaries strewn about the fields. Bees and honey are, as it happens, particularly important to the people of Varthel. I make note of this so you understand what I tell you next. I happened into town the afternoon of Varthel's Festival of the Bee. The townsfolk had filled their gardens with flowering plants of magnificent blues and purples, pinks, and reds to attract the fields of bees. Each garden had an official watcher to count how many bees came in a day, with a golden bee idol being presented to the home to have hosted the most bees. The town was bustling with people peddling their merchandise of bee themes. Some with flavored honey sticks, others had bee statues. My favorite, as I recall, was the creation of a clever gnome I had met there. He had created a mechanical bee that could follow its owner, and even carry lightweight items. I was told at the end of the festival, on the night of the 7th day, the bee queen would come to the town. The festival will culminate in a great feast and sentimental offerings to the queen. Now you must understand, I found this to be a particularly odd ritual, until I was made aware that this creature was larger than a tavern with a habit of devouring people who angered it. And suddenly the people's desire to please the queen seemed much more sensible to me. I was told that in the nights leading up to the festival, the queen could be spotted buzzing in the fields around town, singing an enchanted tune. I was intrigued, of course, but weary from a long journey. This was but the festival's first day. I would take up a room at the inn, rest, and enjoy the local festivities the following day. I was never afforded that opportunity, however. As before dawn of the next day, the door of my room was broken in, and I was woken from my slumber in a surprisingly comfortable bath. I quickly readied myself that I not frighten the oncomers as I bid them good morning. In my room, as I came from behind my bath screen, I saw a group of 4 constables. They were dressed rather well for such a rural town. Their sudden presence seemed odd, as I had broken no laws here yet. It wasn't until one among them, one Constable Michael O'Neill, told me they were detaining me under suspicion of murder. As I had business in the town that was not necessarily time-sensitive, I saw no reason to make myself their enemy, and as this was an unfounded accusation, I politely agreed to accompany them to their facilities. Their jailhouse was rather small. An office with 3 iron-barred rooms within made up the entirety of it. I suppose it was all a small town like this needed, but it was not equipped to contain me should I require an escape. They searched me, found nothing but the clothes on my back, and locked me into one of the barred rooms. The room lacked privacy. The wall facing the office was naught but an iron door made of bars. I imagined that I might be observed for the duration of my stay. The room was otherwise well equipped. I had a cot, a pot, and a small window viewing the fields surrounding the town. I was content with this arrangement, but quite ready to leave. I had business to attend to, and was curious to explore the week's festivities. Now, it only took an hour or so for Mr. O'Neill to return. He informed me that I would be speaking to one of their best investigators. I was interested to speak to them that I might leave, and maybe have some questions answered. However, I was dumbstruck when I saw the most curious thing. A small, green slime entering the room at Mr. O'Neill's words. It slid across the floor to the cell. It had no eyes, but I could feel it looking me over. Mr. O'Neill told me this was Detective Lime, one of their finest. Normally I'd greet the good detective, but I couldn't bring myself to say anything. I was lost in my own fascination. Now, let me take a moment to describe Detective Lime. Lime was a moderately sized, amorphous, gelatinous mass of translucent green slime, with a consistency not unlike a thick jam. There were things floating within her, but I couldn't tell what exactly they were. A brass badge protrudes from her form, as if it were pinned on a vest, and a deerstalker hat placed on top of her form. She had what appeared to be two small black stones floating very near each other, just shy of her slime membrane, as if to simulate eyes. She waited a moment there, jiggled, and Mr. O'Neill said that he'd be asking questions for Detective Lime, as, while she could clearly understand, she lacked the ability to speak. He began with the usual questions, requesting my name, occupation, my business in the town, nothing unordinary. I was rather cooperative, only held back information that I felt was too sensitive. When their interview was finished, I inquired as to the victim. Mr. O'Neill informed me that the Queen had been slain. I was suspected only as traveling would-be heroes had in the past attempted to slay her. The detective took her leave with Mr. O'Neill, leaving me to enjoy my detention. I knew their case was particularly weak. They would need solid evidence that I had done such a deed, or I would be allowed to leave soon. So I waited. I was not present for much of the investigation. In fact, 2 days were spent in my cell waiting. It wasn't until noon of the third day that I was greeted by Detective Lime again. She slid to my door and deposited a key on the floor. I took it and proceeded to open my cell door. As I did, a letter with a wax seal of a bee extended from the detective. The letter was an apology from the constabulary and the town council for my detention. Detective Lime had uncovered the true culprit, a well-meaning Kenku by the name of Keefe. They offered me recompense by paying off my room at the inn for a month, and a gift of honey. A number of those jars I keep to this day. I wish to inquire more on this curious slime, but my business could not wait too terribly much longer. Before long, I found myself leaving Varthel, but I would return again to hire the services of Detective Lime. That, however, is a story I cannot tell you yet. Now, I know that story was focused primarily on me, but it's difficult to tell you her point of view, as she's unable to speak, and I was not there for a good deal of the investigation. However, the story still gives you a fair idea into her background, and the life she has led so far. Now, you look famished. Please give me a moment. Allow me to prepare you a meal. Perhaps a charcuterie board is appropriate. You wait there, and I'll tell you the story of the most contradictory imp I'd ever had the pleasure of helping.